It happened on a Thursday. Thursdays used to be my favorite. Steady, predictable, full of meetings that turned into wins. That morning, I was sipping my espresso, reviewing our latest quarterly report, numbers solid, team proud. The company, my company, was thriving. Harris and Company had become a symbol of integrity in Chicago's ruthless business world. We weren't just profitable, we were respected. Then Megan burst in. My assistant never burst in. "Michael," she stammered, cheeks drained of color, "you need to see this." She handed me her tablet. It was a live stream, WBC News, a breaking story, my name, my face. The headline burned into my mind. Local tycoon accused of massive corruption scheme, FBI investigation underway. I didn't understand. Not until I saw the footage. A blurred video of someone, supposedly me, handing off a manila envelope in a dark parking garage. Overlaying audio, someone saying I'd funneled money through shell companies. The anchor's voice was gleefully surgical. Michael Harris, once considered the moral backbone of Chicago business, now under federal investigation for fraud and bribery. I dropped the tablet. Calls started coming in before I could think. My lawyer, Tom, shouting that the FBI had issued a warrant. Investors, panicked. Journalists, vultures in heat. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. I stepped outside. The wind off Lake Michigan slapped me, but it didn't help. All I could hear were the words, fraud, scandal, fall from grace. By noon, our stock had plummeted 63%. By 3 p.m., our board demanded my resignation. I tried to speak, tried to tell them it was a setup, but the look in their eyes, they didn't believe me. Or maybe they just didn't care. Self-preservation trumps loyalty every time. That night, my office was raided. Computers, documents, even the framed photo of my father, all seized. I went home to an empty apartment. News vans parked below my building. On TV, they dissected my life with glee. "From hero to villain," one pundit said. I stared at the screen until it turned blue. Then I stared at the wall. This wasn't a mistake. It was a hit. Precise, clean, professional. And in my gut, I already knew who was behind it. James and Richard Sloan, the Sloan brothers, billionaire heirs, corporate predators. They'd tried to buy me out 3 times. I refused each time. They didn't like no. They wanted everything I built, and now they had it. I spent the first 3 days in silence, surrounded by the ruins of my reputation. Calls stopped. Emails died. Harris and Company was under new management. Temporary, but not mine. The lawyers circled like sharks around a bloodied swimmer. Everyone I trusted went quiet. But not me. I wasn't done. I didn't grieve. Not like they expected. On the 4th day, I walked out of my building through the back door. Hoodie up, unshaven, invisible. I didn't head to a lawyer or PR firm. I went to a bar in South Side where the music was too loud and the lighting too dark. A place where people didn't ask names. He was there. Logan. Last time I saw him, we were 25 and bailing each other out of a poker mess that nearly cost us our kneecaps. Now he was older, scruffier, and deeper into the shadows than I remembered. "Michael Harris," he muttered, eyeing me like I was a ghost. "You look like hell." "I need a ghost," I said. "I need you." We talked in code, just enough to make him interested. I didn't have to explain much. He'd seen the headlines. I didn't beg. I made him an offer. Freedom, revenge, and a hell of a payday if we made it out clean. He laughed, then nodded. By the next evening, we had our first thread. Logan traced the digital signature on the evidence video. It led to a shell server in Zurich, rerouted through 5 proxies. Standard procedure for someone trying to hide a trail. But he was good. Too good for even the Sloans, which meant they had help. Deep, expensive help. I needed more than a hacker. I found Sarah next. She was LAPD once, turned private after the department turned on her for doing her job too well. I remembered her from a security consultation years back. She owed me. Now I needed her to pay up. She didn't hesitate, said she never liked the Sloanes anyway. Then Emily, the wild card, investigative journalist, recently blacklisted after exposing a governor's dirty ties to the pharmaceutical lobby. She still had contacts, and more importantly, a nose for blood. She was angry, brilliant, and fearless. With them, I built my team. First move, find the original footage, the real footage. Logan hacked into Sloan Tech's internal comms. Buried in a forgotten folder was a raw clip, different angle, better quality. You could see the face of the man in the video clearly. It wasn't me. I watched it 100 times, my jaw clenched tighter with each viewing. It was a body double. Sarah confirmed it. Former contractor, disappeared 6 months ago. We found a name, then a grave. Too convenient. Too perfect. The Sloanes didn't just ruin me, they buried the evidence that could clear me. But they made one mistake. They underestimated how far I'd go when I've got nothing left to lose. It all fell apart the night we tried to break into the Sloan Tech data vault. Logan had spent 2 weeks mapping their digital perimeter, designing back doors, and crafting custom malware. Sarah coordinated the physical side, access points, blind spots, and security. Emily prepped the media blitz, ready to launch the moment we had proof. We were a machine, slick, focused. We got in. Or at least we thought we did. I remember the hum of the server room. Cold air, like a morgue. Logan's fingers flying over the keys, beads of sweat on his forehead. "Almost there," he whispered. "We're in." Then, darkness. Power cut. Emergency red lights flickered on. Doors slammed shut behind us. A voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Harris, always the idealist." James Sloan. "Thought you could waltz in and steal from me?" he sneered. "I own this building. I own the network. Hell, I practically own the city." Sarah pulled her gun, useless against bulletproof glass. Logan swore. "They counter-hacked us. They knew." An ambush. They let us in to trap us. Security stormed in. Real cops, not private guards. My old badge didn't help. They had footage, fingerprints, a tip about a cyber attack. Logan went down first, dragged screaming. Sarah fought until they shoved her to the ground, bloodied her lip. Me? I didn't fight. I didn't blink. I let them take me. Jail is quieter than I imagined. Sterile. Slow. I spent 5 nights there. Emily got the story out, just enough to cast doubt on the Sloan narrative, but not enough to free us. On the 6th day, I was released on bail. Sarah, too. Logan stayed inside. Hacking charges stick harder. Emily vanished. I still don't know where she went. Maybe she ran. Maybe she was silenced. I went back to my apartment. No power. Eviction notice on the door. I sat on the floor with a bottle of warm bourbon and the weight of failure pressing down on me like concrete. They beat me. Worse, they played me. I built my life on control, precision, ethics, and they twisted it all into a lie. I screamed, loud, ugly, until my voice broke, until I couldn't breathe, until I was just a man on a hardwood floor, nothing left but rage and dust. I lay there until morning. When I stood up, I wasn't the same man anymore. I shaved. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror and scraped away the beard that clung to me like defeat. I stared at the man underneath, hollow eyes, drawn cheeks, a mouth that had forgotten how to smile. But the jaw was still set, the spine was still straight. I wasn't going to rebuild, I was going to dismantle. This time, no flashy ops, no break-ins, just leverage and silence. First, I went back to Logan's old haunt, the bar. Found his backup drive hidden in a duct vent above the booth we used to sit in. He always had a backup. On it, a ghost key, a dead man switch he'd coded months ago. It auto-synced to a hidden server that had copies of everything we pulled, including Sloan Tech internal emails, financial logs, and one very interesting audio clip of Richard Sloan threatening a former whistleblower. It wasn't admissible in court, but it was usable. I met with Sarah in a motel outside Joliet. She was limping from a cracked rib, but her eyes were clear. We made a new plan, not to expose the Sloans outright, but to infect their house from within. I used an old contact in city development, someone who owed me a favor from a zoning war we'd won in 17. With his help, we traced the Sloans' newest acquisition, a public-private partnership tied to a low-income housing project. We followed the money. Turns out, the Sloans were funneling funds from city grants into offshore accounts, using fake subcontractors. Emily reappeared, quiet, thin, wearing a burner phone like a lifeline. "They tried to kill me," she said, "but they didn't take my voice." She had contacts still, real journalists, the kind who printed truth with teeth. She fed them the story piece by piece, while Sarah and I gathered more. Surveillance photos, forged documents, a confession from a scared ex-accountant ready to run. And I started showing up again. Not to fight, not yet, just to exist. At business events, charity dinners, silent auctions, like a ghost haunting a house that forgot it had a past. People whispered. The Sloans looked over their shoulders. They knew. They felt it. Not the return of Michael Harris, but the return of the idea of him, the one they tried to erase. And then I got the final piece, a list of offshore holdings tied to a shell company in the Caymans, registered to an alias, tied back to Richard's private lawyer. It was time. No more sneak attacks. I would walk right into the lion's den and take it apart from the inside. The gala was perfect. A sprawling, gilded nightmare in the heart of downtown Chicago. The Sloans' annual charity fundraiser for urban revitalization. Champagne towers, velvet ropes, and a red carpet long enough to shame Caesar. They didn't expect me to show. But when I walked in, tailored black suit, eyes sharp, silence cut the room in half. Richard saw me first. His glass froze mid-air. James turned and paled. Then the cameras caught us. 4 flashes, just enough to make the moment public. I smiled, didn't blink. Emily was already in the crowd, disguised as a caterer, earpiece in. Sarah posed as private security, watching the exits. We were inside. This time, no guns, no hacking, just the truth, loaded, primed, and ready to explode. I approached the podium. "I'd like to say a few words," I said, taking the mic from the mayor. Confusion rippled. The Sloans didn't move. They couldn't. Cameras were live. "I stand here tonight," I began, "as a man falsely accused, as a name nearly destroyed, but more importantly, as a witness." Behind me, the screen flickered to life. Emily cued the footage. Not the fake one, the real one. The body double, the Sloan's accountant's confession, the financial trails, audio of Richard's threats, gasps, a scream. James lunged, tried to cut the feed. Security held him back. Too late. Sarah stepped forward, flipping her badge, reinstated for the night. FBI agents surged in, flashing badges, quiet commands. The Sloans were cuffed where they stood, blinking under the press's relentless strobe. I didn't cheer. I just watched them, face to face. Richard mouthed something. I didn't hear it. The crowd erupted behind me. Reporters shouted. Flashes flared. Emily stood at my side, notebook clutched like a weapon. Sarah nodded once, crisp, final. I walked out the same way I came in, silent, deliberate. Outside, the night air was cold, pure. A single cab waited. I got in, gave no name, no destination. The driver didn't ask. We drove off into the city quiet.